And 3, 2, 1. Oh, I gotta turn on the live chat. Hold on. Technical difficulties. Enable live chat. Live chat is enabled. All systems nominative. Good morning, all. It's Ned over My Philippine Dreams. N to the E to the D over at MPD. 199 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal coming at you from Dumaguete City, the city of gentle people, Negros Oriental, the Philippines. Area code 6200. Today is Wednesday, November 8th, 2017, the first day of the rest of our lives. Like Cheap Trick once said, reach out and take it. Reach out and take it. Welcome to the Philippine Dreams Weekly Livecast, where I cover the recent goings-on, respond to viewer comments, and make up exciting stories about my rather mundane life here in the Philippines. Now, I know livecasts aren't everybody's cup of tea, but I like them because they're easy to do. Some people call them lazy casts. And it's also a cool way to interact with the viewers on the stream. The live stream's comment section is open. As always, feel free to ask questions. Goof around, but try to keep it respectful, try to keep it somewhat civil. If you're going to troll the live chat, you're most likely going to be banned, so there. Also, let's try to keep the PV comments to a minimum. There's a lot of people on the live cast who don't know what you're talking about, so it's a bit confusing. So let's try to chill on that. This week, I'll be covering the murder of an American businessman in, wait for it, Mindanao, the arrest of a Danish national for human trafficking, updating the college tuition assistance program that I'm putting together, two opportunities, count them, two opportunities to get free ebooks, and briefly chatting about turd sandwiches and giant douches. And if anybody knows what that is, let's see. Shit, okay. Yeah, I've lost weight. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. I'm trying to get down to like 195 pounds. See if I can do that. But first, free stuff. It's all about free stuff. If you are familiar with the way this live cast is done, I try to give away a free ebook every week. So here's the first one. The first person to email the artist and song quoted in the title of this video gets a free copy of my ebook. Yeah, so it's I think the lyric is quoted in the video title and the live stream title. It's getting kind of hectic. It's getting kind of hectic. First person to email what that song is to myphilippinedreams@gmail.com gets a free copy of the ebook. That used to be in my gym mix, that song, but that was a while ago. I'm kind of dating myself. I actually watched the video yesterday. It's still a pretty damn good video. And then I graduated to Rammstein, Static X, and Slipknot. Shout out to Wayne Static, R.I.P. He was an early casualty in the opioid drug epidemic. Something coming up this Saturday. Got a quick announcement to make. True Love Cafe, and if you lived in Dumaguete for a while, you'll know Orville and you'll know True Love Cafe. It's a great Jamaican resto down on South Road. The good news is they are moving into the city, and its grand opening is this Saturday night. Groove, it's early, I can't speak, to the Caribbean rhythms and enjoy 10% off the entire menu for all Silliman students and those over 55. Shoot, I can't get the discount. Myself, Rike, and Bud Brown will be there, as will probably a GoPro or two. I think Rike is actually flying in for this one. The new location is just north of Silliman University Hospital on Hibbard Avenue. Turn right on E.J. Blanco, and Jamrock, which is the name of the new restaurant, will be a bit down on the right. See you there. Angel got her ass kicked yesterday. Angel's a bit of a maldita. She's a bit of a badass, or she thinks she's a bit of a badass. And she's always had this beef with Mama McCracken, who lives down the road. So whenever Mama McCracken runs outside the gate, she does her, really deep, aggressive woof thing, runs up to her and tries to attack her through the gate, Basically, she's a keyboard warrior. She got out yesterday, and she came back about half an hour later. She was crying by the gate, and she had gotten beat up. There was a little bit of blood on her. She was limping. And what I think happened was Mama McCracken and her daughter, Snoopy Dog, had puppies. Well, not them together, but one of them had puppies. I don't know if it was Mama McCracken or Snoopy Dog. Anyways, there's puppies, and I think Angel might have gone down. and the two dogs got defensive and protective of the puppies, and I think they kicked her ass. So that's that. La la la. Yeah, so yeah, I'll definitely be there for that on Saturday night. It's from 6 to 10 o'clock. And be there or be square. Okay, it looks like the stream is dead. The video output is too low. Oh, God. All right. So let's get into the first bit of news. American national murdered in Cotabato. A 60-year-old U.S. Army veteran has been shot dead by suspected thieves in Cotabato. Michael Keith was with his wife and 2 children when the gunman struck as he was going about his business delivering cookies and candies to his shop. Now, I guess he has multiple businesses down in that area of Mindanao. The motorcycle-riding killers struck after Mr. Keith pulled up in his delivery truck. After he was gunned down, the gunman took his sling bag, which contained about 200,000 pesos and other valuables, before making their escape. His wife and children, they were also in the vehicle, were terrified but unharmed and were with Mr. Keith when he was pronounced dead at the Cruzado Medical Clinic Hospital. The murder of Mr. Keith, who lived with his family in Pagadian City, is the second killing of a foreigner in Cotabato this week. Last Tuesday, October 24th, a Pakistani moneylender was shot dead while collecting payments. The attackers made off with his bag, which contained 12,000 pesos, which is about 240 US dollars. So when we talk about the low cost of living in the Philippines, life is cheap. Life is definitely cheap in the Philippines. Investigations are continuing to determine whether the 2 shootings were committed by the same gang. Earlier this year, it was also reported about another spate of foreigners being gunned down on the island of Biliran. In July, New Zealander Simon Rawlinson, age 63, was gunned down by assassins. He had been embroiled in legal disputes with local government figures, and actually covered that one about the time that it happened. Prior to that, in June 2016, 74-year-old Henk Nuits, a Dutch businessman, was shot dead by a pillion rider. His 11-year-old son, Jake Henry, 11-year-old kid, was shot in the chest but survived. Then in March this year, former U.S. Marine Harvey Abrams was also shot by motorcycle-riding assassins. Now, keep in mind that this is on the same area, the same island, Biliran. And so far, no arrests have been reported in any of the cases. Not surprising. Now it's time for some more free stuff. All right, on to the trivia question. So get ready with your little browser again to shoot an email. Last week's trivia question, or the last time I did trivia question, was a television show that piqued my own personal interest in the tropics, featured a somewhat famous quote in its very first season: "We either live together or we die alone." I am reminded of this series whenever I see oceanic shipping containers in the Philippines. The answer was, of course, Lost, one of the best shows of all time, even though a lot of people didn't like the final episode. And Robert H. was sent a free copy of Chasing Your Philippine Dream. This week's trivia question: with 7 volcanoes and only 5 major towns, this Philippine island is known for having the highest concentration of volcanoes in the entire world. The first person to email the name of this island in question to myphilippinedreams@gmail.com gets a free copy of our book, a $10.95 value at any of your local book retailers. Hey, Chris and Cebu's here. Hello, everybody. Captain Spaulding, Davao Dan, Nasty Nate, Rory Thomas, Douglas Jordan. We got 76 people on. Shout out, please. Shout out to Roger Jr. Hi from JC, Sierra, and Sean. We are watching with Roger here. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the gentleman in Seoul, Korea. Man, you guys got good food up there. Scott Pearson says, thanks for the book, Ned. About 40 pages in and really informative so far. Yeah, after about 50 pages, it goes downhill. I start just talking about myself. My boring life. All right, let's talk about right now what you're seeing. I'm using PLDT. I believe it's the 8 megabit plan, and it's like 0.5 to 0.75 megabit upload. The good news is fiber optic has finally been installed just down the street. They're waiting to activate it, and I went through the process of signing up so I can migrate, which is migrate my DSL to fiber. Now, what's interesting about this and the marketing and customer loyalty and all this stuff. So I go there, and she's guiding me through the plans because you always have to get a more expensive plan when you're upgrading. So she said, "What kind of plan do you want?" And I'm like, "Ooh, I want the 100 megabit, unlimited bandwidth and unlimited download plan." And she's like, "Well, sir, you're not a new subscriber, so we can't give you the 100 megabit, but we'll give you the 50 megabit." I'm like, "Oh, why is that?" And she says, "Well, that's the 100 megabit is only for new subscribers." And this is a poor woman working for PLDT. She's just trying to do her job. She's a clerk. She's not making much money. And of course, I reply to her. So I said, "So since I've been a loyal customer of PLDT for this past year, I'm actually not able to get the 100 megabit. I'm being penalized, and I can only get a 50 megabit plan for the same amount of money." And she was like, "Yes, sir." And finally, I just kind of said, "Well, I'm okay. That's cool, whatever." So PLDT, man, you guys really, I can understand the marketing and that you're, greedy and you want to make lots of money because it's basically only two providers in the Philippines. But man, that's just ridiculous. But hopefully, when I do live streams from now on, the quality will be a lot better. And all the photos you're seeing in the background right now, you got my big head in the corner there, and then you got all these photos in the background. There's 294 photos that I've taken with my DSLR that I considered keepers. So that's what you're seeing right now, but you're only seeing in 360p. So hopefully at some point in the future, we can have it up to 720p because I'll have a 50 megabit upload speed, and it'll all come to fruition. Keep your fingers crossed. All right, in other news, and this is following up on Australia's lead in this, U.S. passports. It was recently announced that holders of U.S. passports that have child sex convictions are going to have their passports revoked, and they're going to be issued a passport noting that the individual was convicted of a sex crime in the United States. I think what they do is they just don't let them leave the country. If an Australian citizen has been convicted of a sex crime, they're not allowed to leave. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. So finally, the U.S. is taking a proactive stance on this, on the human trafficking, child sex crimes. Unfortunately, a large part of East Asia, Southeast Asia, is a target for these type of people. So props to the United States government for finally doing something right. Let's go back to the viewer comments real quick. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, Bruce Bogan, Chris Ned said the man had several businesses and was probably going to make a bank deposit the next day. Yeah, it was somebody that knew his schedule, somebody that knew he was in business, and somebody that knew when to hit him when he had some money. Unfortunately, that was only about $4,000 US, so that wasn't a big haul. And then you have to live with yourself for the rest of your life after having murdered somebody, a family, and having the kid and the wife in the freaking car. They do this all the time. Why can't you just stick a gun in somebody's face and just say, "Give me the money"? People, maybe it's just they don't have their English skills up. I don't know. All right. First viewer comment is from Wildlands1. And Wildlands1 says, "When I first moved here in 2014, an old-timer at the Red Tables in Valencia gave me some advice. The 4 rules to a happy expatriatism. Though I soon broke the her family one, I have tried to follow the rest. The first one, never really get married here. There is no divorcing. Number 2, never buy property or invest here. It's hers, not yours. Number 3, never open a business of any kind, especially a resto. You will lose your money. Number 4, always live next island over or 6 hours plus from her family." And he might personally add a 5th, never put your whole life out in public on YouTube for all to diss. The paltry income gained just isn't worth the hassle. If you need to earn money here, stay home and invest until you don't, then come. All right, so the first 3 he's talking about, never get married in the Philippines, never open a business in the Philippines, never purchase property in the Philippines. That's what I refer to as the Holy Trinity, and I've talked about it in past videos. But if you're going to absolutely, go by that verbatim and concrete and not take any risks in life, what kind of life is that? So I mean, there's pluses and minuses to that. As for the fourth one, always live next island or away from her family. I've gotten mixed feedback on that one. I've seen guys that, have gotten, raked over the coals on it. But I also see guys that have been welcomed into the family compounds. They're part of the family business now, and it's worked out really well for them because they have that extended family network. They not only got the extended family network, but again, like I talked about last week, social interaction is part of that spirituality, connecting to something greater than yourself. So if you got a good family that you're marrying into, it can actually benefit for you. And as for number 5, never put your whole life out in public in YouTube for all to diss. I agree. I only give out what I want to give out. And as far as people dissing me, it's really easy to block people on YouTube. It's a click of one button. And I'll be talking trolls in South Park in a little bit. And as for the income, it pays the rent, man. It was found money. I don't bank on it. And but it's also good for Wildlands to point out that, because there's some guys that come here and like, hey, I can, create a YouTube channel and have tens of thousands of subscribers and make all kinds of money and support myself. And that doesn't work out like that. I've been going at it for a while, and I don't make a whole lot of money. And I'll be talking about that in a little bit. Speaking of money, Patreon. If you found what I do to be of some value, consider supporting the ongoing efforts on my Patreon site. I got the videos, do photography, respond to viewer questions, all that stuff. And my Patreon site is www.patreon.com/Philippine Dreams. Special thanks to all patrons, past and present, including Sir Rico, who's been like my #1 patron. Thank you so much. Dan N, Tom D, 1DIR, KCS, Dave H, Dale S, Sir Ahmed, Kevin F, and to my last patrons, Dawn and Maribel. Thank you all very much for helping out in the ongoing efforts. My last video that I put up, and it's actually one of my favorite videos, was highlights from my trip to Siquijor. I had the Mavic, I had Vanguard 1 with me, I threw Vanguard up there a bunch. I was able to get some raw format photos with my Samsung S7 that came out pretty dang good. And it took a whole lot of editing that morning. I think I put it up on Saturday or Sunday. And that morning I spent about 4 or 5 hours editing this mishmash together because I had to put the video clips through Lightroom and all that stuff. It took a lot of time. I got a lot of positive feedback from it in the comment section, and I really, really appreciate that. But like many travel videos that I seem to do, it doesn't get many views. And but if I was doing what I'm doing based on the number of views I get sometimes, I wouldn't do certain types of videos. But I really enjoy those. It's fun putting them together. It's like it gets my artistic stuff going, and I'm putting things together and setting the music to it and everything. So I like that. Speaking of Siquijor, I am returning to Siquijor. I think tomorrow. I'm not sure. And this time we're just going to go to a resort on the beach, chill out, relax, try to get some jet skis, do some sea kayaking, do all that fun stuff. And Dana has agreed to become a bigger part of the video, and we're going to try something different. I spoke to her about this, and we're going to try something different. I'm not going to get into the details, but I hope it comes out good. I hope, because the best laid plans of mice and men sometimes don't come to fruition, so I'm hoping it all comes good. If it does, it should be a really amusing video. I also ran into Junjun, and if you remember the house the world built, this was like 2 or 3 years ago. No, this was longer. This was like 3 years ago. Some of our neighbors got evicted, and they didn't have anywhere to go, so we put together like a little fundraiser. Subscribers donated a bunch of money. I donated a bunch of money, because you got to have skin in the game when you're doing this type of thing. And we built them a house, and I got the videos of all that stuff. And I ran into Junjun the other day, and Sir Martin was with me. He's a subscriber. Actually, I think Martin's leaving on Saturday. That's been here in Dumaguete and hanging out. And Junjun looked good. He's healthy. He's actually getting medications from the government now. He's got a pretty severe lung thing going on that he has to take continued medication for. And Nikki and Nano were asking about us. And so what I'm going to do is I talked to Junjun at some point, hopefully next week. I'll be able to go out there and do an update on the house and the family. The house the world built. That's one of my favorite accomplishments here in the Philippines too, was building that house. It was a pain in the butt, and I'm permanently scarred for it, because if you remember, and if you've been following this, when I burnt my leg, when I dropped my YBR 125, and I fried the crap out of my leg. That was at Junjun's house when they were building it. Okay, moving on. Scholarship program update. I got $500 in the donation kitty. It's just been sitting there for a while, and I got to do something with it. So finally, I was able to get a hold of Jimmy M. He's a fellow townie from Dorchester. And I was able to get the number of the young woman who is trying to go back to Norsu. She was studying criminology at Norsu, which is an inexpensive public college here. She's from a very poor family. And so I've been texting back and forth with her. I want to meet with her and her family to discuss this tuition assistance program. The reason she had to drop out of school was she got pregnant, and she's a single mom. And I met her briefly for like 20 seconds one day, and she really wants to go back to school. They just don't have the money. The family just doesn't have the money. So this would be a good opportunity for her. Now, the problem I have, and I see it as an upcoming problem, and I'm not quite sure how to deal with it, is I don't want to put people's faces on camera. I don't like that. But on the other hand, I have to prove, that monies that are coming in, or the $500 that I got in the kitty that I'm expending, is accurately, being spent, and there's accountability and all that stuff. So what I might do, there's a couple things I might do. I might still do video, but just blur her face out. Or I could find a couple people here that don't know me, that aren't my buddies, and are willing to, go over the receipts and do all that stuff and make sure everything's legit. Because that's one thing I do get concerned about, is when you're doing stuff like this, that people are going to think you're shisty and that, you're taking administrative fees or something off of it. Whenever I do this stuff, I always put some of my money into it, and I'm just trying to avoid that fiasco. So hopefully, and I just texted her last night, I got to wait for her. She's working right now full-time to help support her family. So she's going to talk to them and see how it will go. All right. Hopefully that'll all come into pass. We got 100 people. Black Crow walking, be directed. John Moses asked, would the tuition assistance be for something besides tuition, such as housing, since the Philippines is supposed to be making college tuition free? At this point, it's not free. And the housing she has is her family. It's just that they live in a little house, little hut. And I'm not sure how it's all going to work. Every time I do something like this, I always blunder into it. I have the best of intentions, road to hell paved with and everything. And there's always some stumbling going on. But I'm going to try to make it right. Try to make it right. All right, moving on, because I don't want to get too bogged down and make these live casts too long. Free stuff. You guys know I'm all about free stuff. Okay, so we gave away 2 free ebooks so far. There's actually a bunch of emails that came in, so someone's already got those. This is an ebook. This isn't an ebook, but this is podcasts. You guys know I love podcasts. I went over podcasts a couple of weeks ago, which ones I listen to, and I stumbled upon a really good one. It's a podcast called The Truth. And it's one of those public radio stations. It's very similar. The production values are incredibly high. It's similar to like Radiolab or something like that. But what they are is they're fictional stories. And they bring in these professional voice actors and they put these little stories together. And it's usually something like really out there, something out in left field. And they first became popular in 2012. They released a podcast called That's Democracy, which comprises a civics teacher, a civics high school teacher, a high school class, and a gun and a lesson in democracy. The link to that particular podcast is down in the video description box. If you really want to get your mind blown and bring yourself to another place, it's a short one. It's only like 10 minutes long, 12 minutes long. Definitely check out that podcast. The Truth podcast, every single one. There's been a couple weak ones, but I've listened to about 20 or 30 of them so far, and they are really good. So there's more free stuff for you down in the video description box. Also, The Great White Tribe in Philippinia is down in the video description box, a book I highly recommend. This week's returning corporate sponsor is, of course, Chasing Your Philippine Dreams, an expat's guide to the Philippines, covering virtually every possible topic relevant to preparing and dealing with long-term life as a foreign expat in the Philippines. The book comes with a 100% money back. If not fully satisfied, simply email me and I'll give you your money back. Actually, last week, somebody ordered the book. And again, I think this is the third person I've had to give their money back. They thought it was a physical book, so I had to refund his money. But it's all good. Also, make sure you're not using an iOS or a Samsung Android device to try to order it, like on your phone. You got to do it. You got to order it through the link on your PC or laptop. That's the best way to do it. Next up, about a month ago, 2 months ago, I realized that I hadn't watched season 19 and season 20 of South Park. And for those of you who know, South Park is an incredibly funny series that is completely the antithesis of political correctness. Lately, they haven't been getting too crazy, but in their earlier seasons, they really brought it to the nth level. As a matter of fact, they almost got fired a couple times, threatened to quit a bunch of times from their network. And season 20 I've been watching, it has to do with Turd Sandwich versus Giant Douche, which is basically Trump versus Hillary. And the way they approached it and the way they lay it out is just so funny. There's also the thing on the internet trolls and how Mr. Blazwoski, I think it's Stan's dad, is this guy called ScanCon42 or something. And the thing on internet trolls is really good too. Thank you, South Park. Thank you, South Park, for what, 21 years, 21 seasons of just making me laugh and helping put life in a different light. The final news piece has to do with human trafficking. A Danish man arrested for human trafficking. A 66-year-old Danish national was arrested on November 1 for allegedly bringing a minor to a beach resort in Cebu. Joseph Bertelsen was caught by the team led by Senior Inspector Junafe Varaga, who was the town police chief. The team rescued a 17-year-old girl, a native of Sibonga, Cebu, from the accused Joseph Bertelsen. The girl was brought to the social welfare office for counseling. Investigations showed the girl met the foreigner through an online dating website earlier this year. On Wednesday afternoon, the girl and her adult sister met with the foreigner in a mall in Cebu. He later allegedly invited them to take a swim in a beach resort, which they agreed to. After they arrived in the resort, Bertelsen allegedly brought them into a private room. The resort staff, sensing the foreigner was bringing a minor, reported him to the police station, and his arrest followed. A foreigner who was caught in the company of a minor, who is not his relative, violates Republic Act RA 7610, or the Special Protection of Children Against Abuse, Exploitation, and Discrimination Act. Parts of the Act prohibits any person to be in the company of a minor 12 years or under, or who is 10 years or more his junior, in any public or private place, hotel, motel, beer joint, discotheque, cabaret, pension house, sauna, or massage parlor, beach and or other tourist resort or similar places. Vergara said that they will file human trafficking charges against the foreigner. All right, so in this case, and again, this shows you how fast things can go downhill and how fast things can go pear-shaped here in the Philippines, especially in situations like these. Now, keep in mind, this 17-year-old minor, who's underage, was in the company of her adult sister, and all three of them went to the room, whatever, and the hotel staff was suspicious, and, you know, they did the right thing by observing the law, notified the police, and he was taken into custody. Now, the problem here is there's a few things that when this law first came into effect, there was a case of a guy who was going with a ferry, and it was a minor, but the mother was there also, and he got caught up in it for a while. I think all charges were dismissed off that. And the other problem is this is a non-bailable offense. Sex crimes in the Philippines are non-bailable, which means you're going to be waiting 2, 3, 4 years for trial to get this dealt with. And you never know what's going to happen. The prisons and jails here in the Philippines, and I've been to more than a few, are pretty nasty. You don't want to be there. So this is always something that you have to keep in mind. You have to check identification. And, you know, going that young is just, that's a little crazy anyways. So, but you always have to have identification. You always got to cover your ass. You always also have to be aware of scams, hustles, and people just trying to fill their own pockets. This whole minor thing has been used many times against foreigners. They get them in a bad situation. People bust in and they're like, hey, listen, you got to pay us so much money or we're going to report you. So this is how quickly things can go down here. All right, we're almost done because I have to go get my teeth cleaned. The final viewer question comes from Mommy Mamo, and he asked, is it completely necessary to have a scooter? My wife is from Tanhai, which is north of Dumaguete, and everyone there says it is, but I don't know how many of them have actually been and are just going off hearsay. In my humble opinion, if you're going to live here long term, I think you have to have some mode of transportation, whether it be a car, whether it be a scooter or something along those lines. I'm not a big fan of the public transportation. The buses, most of the buses are okay. The big ferries are okay. But jeepneys, easy rides, hobbles, all that stuff, I'm not real comfortable with. I'm not a big guy. I'm like 5'10", maybe 5'9.5". But jeepneys are incredibly uncomfortable. You've got all the diesel exhaust. They're hot. They're nasty. And you have to wait for them, and you're out in the heat. And scooters here are very inexpensive. You're going to pay about $1,200 to $1,500 US for a good quality Honda, Suzuki, or Yamaha that's going to last basically with decent maintenance for as long as you want it to. It's a cheap and expensive form of transportation, and they're also incredibly fuel efficient. I mean, when you hear people talking about getting 120 miles per gallon, that's not fake news. That's the fuel efficiency of them. That's just what it is. It's nuts. That's crazy. All right, go to viewer comments real quick. Chris and Cebu is all over the place. Don't you be promoting your live cast, Chris. I'm watching you. Chris is going to be like, hey, guys, come on over. I'm doing my own live cast. Yeah, Rory Thomas says, losing you now, Ned. Welcome to PLDT. My Johnson. Oh, My Johnson's back. And he says, is a minor there under 21? No, My Johnson, a minor there is under age 18. And again, even if they're accompanied by a family member, if you're in any of those cabarets, beach resorts, beaches, hotels, motels, anything like that, even if they have an older family member with them, you can still be arrested and be accused of human trafficking. Bruce Bogan says, Honda TMX Suprema 155 for $68,500 cash. That's about $1,100. The TMX the 155 TMX is actually used by a lot of trike drivers here, because it is incredibly tepid. It is incredibly fuel efficient. And it's got the power and the torque. William Frisch says, Ned is the drone master. I am. And if anybody hasn't notified Bud Brown of that, someone really needs to. Because I can't be swearing. But yeah, Vanguard 1 is going back to Sikihor tomorrow and hopefully get some good stuff. Popeye says, would love to see you do another Esteem panel video with the kids again. That was hilarious. Yeah, I can't really do it right now. Like I said, though, I'm going out to the house the world built, and hopefully I won't get arrested for human trafficking. That's a private residence, though. Christopher DeBona says, hope you're well, Ned. I am well. I am good. I am getting stuff done, man. Somebody asked what I use or Chris and Cebu. I was asking somebody what Chris and Cebu uses for editing software. And I think he said, yeah, Chris and Cebu is using iMovie, free software. There's actually a bunch of free softwares you can use. I notice nobody asked me. I use Sony Vegas 13. My Johnson, yeah. I mean, the scams and hustles are fairly apparent. You really got to be aware of it, though. And when you first come here, there's all kinds of stuff going on. You're distracted. You're confused. You're trying to make sense of sometimes a senseless situation. So make sure you do your research. Make sure you got situational awareness going on. All that stuff. Randall Brown says, I have no problem with my wife's family. They are actually awesome. Yep. Like I said, there's a mixed And that's one of the things on these foreign expat forums. Whenever anybody brings up living close or keeping the family far away, there's always this big brouhaha that kicks up, and people from both sides are relating their experiences. You know. Nasty Nate says, how much is 200,000 pesos? That's about $4,000. Douglas Jordan asked a good question. Did that apartment you spoke of and showed, was it taken? It's still up in the air. That turned into a real shite show. I talked about that somewhat in the last live cast. She still hasn't made her mind up on what she's going to do, whether she's going to let her friend stay there or whether she's going to rent it out. I was actually texting somebody this morning. So that stuff's still up in the air. Welcome. Yeah, Wes CW says, Ned, where is your boy Golden Rich? Haven't seen him in a while. Also, and I'm not a very religious person, but before we go, I just want to observe a moment of silence for Peter V and for Aaron Wilson of Video Freedom. Okay, that's good. Larry Villanova says, hey, Ned, I'm here. I got to meet Rike last week. I think he's in Cebu, but he's coming back for the grand opening of Orville's new restaurant. And that's so much better because I don't like going down the South Road. I just don't like, even though there's some good restaurants down there. Shout out to Gigi's for that freaking Philly's cheesesteak the other day. So it's nice that Orville is moving the restaurant closer to the heart of the city, both for better business and better for me, because now I'll be able to go there more. And let me tell you something. There was one night there. He had the goat curry going, and then he made some dumplings, some Jamaican dumplings. Oh, man. My mouth is literally watering as we speak. So if you're in Dumaguete, definitely go check them out. Also, don't forget, and I won't be here for it, but the Sabanals, the lovely Sabanals, Marichu, Janet, and Andre will be playing their acoustic set on Thursday night at Flip Flops at 7 p.m. If you don't like seeing bands because the music's too loud and it's too overwhelming, definitely check this out because it's an acoustic set. They take requests. It's a quiet, chill crowd, and they got good food there too. Randall Brown says, wow, there are going to be a lot of arrests then. Yeah, well, a lot of times, I mean, a lot of the laws, a lot of the rules, a lot of the regulations here are rather arbitrarily enforced, and you don't see them being enforced all the time. If they were literally to strictly enforce that Republic Act 7610 every time something like that happened, nobody would be able to come to the Philippines because you're always going to be in some situations when you're around a minor and they just wander around. They're all over the place. There's freaking hordes of them. There's gangs. They're roaming everywhere. And a lot of times they're with, family members or older brothers, older sisters or whatever. And even in that situation, you're technically human trafficking. So what I think is going to happen is hopefully some judge will look at this and take into consideration that the woman said that she was 18, the girl said she was 18, and be like, nothing completely crazy happened. There was an adult family member there too, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? Seth is chilling in Angeles City. I haven't heard from him for a while. I haven't seen anything on him for a while. I know he was good friends with Aaron Wilson until Aaron Wilson turned on him like he turns on everybody. All right, that's enough. Thank you, everybody, for commenting. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being engaged. Don't forget to check out that free podcast that you can get down in the video description box. That's Democracy. It's like a Stephen King story, and it's really cool because the production value, like I said, is really high. The acting is fantastic, and it brings you to a place that you're not expecting to go to. Check that out. All right, until next time, I got to go get my teeth done. Maybe I'll see you Saturday night, not sure. This is Ned over at My Philippine Dreams, signing out. Be well, y'all. Ooh.